this is going to be a cool video because I'm going to go through some of the sprint baseline data from myself, my wife, and a competitive jiu-jitsu athlete that I've been working with for a little bit now, just in terms of conditioning and doing these sprints. I think it'd be cool just to kind of give you a visualization of what's happening. Again, I'm no pro at this. I am just soaking up as much information as possible, presenting information which helps me synthesize it for myself as well. And it also helps me learn, and ideally it can hopefully help you learn with it. Obviously, Dr. Andrew Usher is the absolute massive nerd behind this, and the master behind the madness. So let's go through, whose data we're going to go through first. Let's go through mine, because mine looks horrible. So let me look at my latest sprint. So I'm only going to show you one sprint during this, I should say one session during this. Typically, you want to see kind of the progression from the baselines, but I'll explain anyway what's going on. So this is the, actually, let me just talk about this first. So this is the baseline test, 2 sets of 30 seconds on, 60 seconds off. So done on an air bike, and this one is done on a Rogue Echo bike. I started the test at 60 seconds, and as you can see, this is my heart rate. Kind of comes up, barely comes down, comes up again, and then we finish. So what I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for how well heart rate works on the way up, how well heart rate comes back down during the rest period, how well it comes back up and back down. So what we're going to do, I know it starts at 60 seconds, I know the interval's 30 seconds long. We're going to see how it fits on the polynomial regression and hit the kinetics button. So it's a little choppy. We can smooth it out if we like. But what we see here is red and green dots. So red dots meaning it's the slow component, green dots being the fast component. Now, typically, just to make it easy, red bad, green good. But ideally just kind of follow the line nicely and have kind of like a general shape. Now, this isn't too bad. Heart rate takes a little bit to kick in, but then you have this. That's not too bad for my first on sprint. I should say we start at around 140 beats per minute. Honestly, I get so anxious and nervous for each of these. My heart rate just like, I mean, I'm ramping into it too, so I can smash it from the very first second. But still, like, damn, every time I do this, I get so damn nervous because I know how I'm going to feel afterwards. So the 60-second rest in between. Now, this is where it doesn't look so good. This is where my conditioning is honestly, well, I wouldn't say this to an athlete, but since it's me, I can say it. It's actually fucking horrible. No, we'll keep that on because that's a little broken. So you'll see here that my heart is still going up even when we finish. So we're looking at another 7 seconds before the recovery actually starts. Then we have this quite big deviation from the curve. Now, ideally, we want to kind of see it follow this curve. Even though we have this, though, we actually have this really nice little fast component here. So ideally the goal would be to be kind of like a little more sticky to this line and have some of this green stuff kind of shift up this way. So let's see how sprint number 2 goes. Again, a little slow initially here, but it's not too bad. Like, we're not like going crazy around the line here. And then to finish, we're looking at 12 beats of heart rate recovery. And again, we still have this deviation out here. It's a little slow to kick in with the recovery, but then this is really nice. So look at that. Just all the way down through here. So what you'll typically see is the recovery after the last sprint is typically better than between the sprints because that's when you're fully relaxed. But that's kind of, we kind of want this back between the sprints because we want to be able to repeat those efforts. So because I have this deviation, and even on my previous ones, I still have it too. For me, I'm going to see if it still exists with a slightly shorter intervals. So I'll go down, this was 30 on 60 off. For 2, I'll go down to 3 sets of 20 on 40 off. So that will start to shorten the recovery phase, and that should ideally start to push some of this green further up. But it'll be interesting just to see if this still sticks around. Because I want to see if I can essentially knock this out of my curve and see if I can start to, I guess, facilitate faster recovery initially, and see if we can start to get rid of this, some of this red stuff. Let's go and see another. Let's look at my wife's one here, which is the one. I think it was this one. Yeah, it was this one. So she is, I don't know how she is such a conditioning machine. Probably because she's an elite damn athlete, so she just fucking has it innate in her, which can't believe it, honestly. It's crazy. I guess when you're a CrossFit Games athlete and shit like that, like, this shit just, like, that's very nice. Don't even have to smooth the data, just like follows that line on the first sprint. Okay, and then the off, again, don't need to smooth it because it's looking pretty nice. Again, a little slow in the beginning, but it's not like, you saw my one. You saw how like mine kind of like this big loop. This one just like, still a little slow in the beginning, but still relatively tight, and then comes down into this really nice fast phase, and then a little slow at the end there, but still pretty nice, especially compared to my data. Second on, a little slow in the beginning, but still nice. It fits really nicely with that, with the line of best fit there. And then the off, look at that, look how tight that is. I mean, a little deviation here, but that's probably when she was getting off the bike or something like that, and going to lie on the floor and die. So I'm not too worried about that. But like, look how tightly that fits. Again, ideally we kind of want to move some of this fast stuff a little further up. So for her, her previous one, she didn't go hard enough on the first sprint, but taking this one at face value, I think her recovery is quite nice and close to the line. So what we can do is we can start to push her a little more, especially with how good her on kinetics are too. So we can look at like 10 seconds on, and we'll probably push to, have a look here. We'll go 10 seconds on and probably push to, looking at that, either 15 or 20 seconds off. We'll probably start with 20 just to see what it looks like. Ideally, the idea is that we want to be able to shorten that recovery time while she still gets that big on drive and a lot of that metabolic stress from it. And we're going to try and shift that green a little further up at the top so we can start, essentially we're going to start the recovery portion between these sprints faster. So her sprint protocols will be slightly different to mine, where she's going to do 6 sets of 10 seconds on, probably 20 seconds off for the first week, and just to see how that looks. Whereas mine's going to be 3 sets of 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off, because my graph looks like shit. So let's go to Mr. Jared. He is a top ranked, was it this one? Which one am I looking at between sprint? No, I think that's, yeah, the other one, the heart rate monitor is screwed up. So he's one of the top ranked grapplers in New Zealand, does a lot of super fights and whatnot. We've been doing sprints for quite a while. I'm just trying to really dial these things in. So if we look here, pretty nice. Nice little fit to the curve. A little slow in the beginning, but nothing crazy. Looks pretty good. Then we're going to look at the off. We're going to smooth this one because of the heart rate data. So we see here, nothing crazy deviation-wise, like my one. A little slow in the beginning, and then this nice little fast component here. So again, we kind of want to facilitate shifting this up just to get recovery happening faster in this. Now, I guess with super fights as well, you're only fighting once in the day or in the evening or whenever it is. So, you know, is that as important up here? Well, potentially, because, you know, maybe scrambling within the actual super fight, 10-minute match, you still kind of want to maybe have some of that up that way. Let's see. And then the second on, a little slow, but, you know, it starts to curve up nicely. So that's pretty good for that on. And then let's look at the off again. Nice and tight. A little, nothing crazy there. And then the on. So again, we wanted, sorry, then the green here, the fastest phase. So we kind of still want to shift that up. So for Jared here, because his is actually really quite tight, especially with his, like that's not too bad at all. and this is really nice here. So for him, again, we want to try and shift that a little further up. So we're going to probably go into a 10 on, 6 by 10 on, and then he can push I think straight to 15 off because his is looking quite good. So it'll be 6 by 10 on, 15 off. My wife's would be 6 by 10 on, about 20 off, and then mine will be 3 sets of 20 on, 40 off. And I wanted to do this just to illustrate that sprint protocols, or at least the protocols for conditioning, it's hard to give blanket general recommendations, especially when we're looking at sprints, because we're using the data to inform us on what we're trying to change for that athlete to be able to make whatever the changes within, I guess, their performance and outputs, versus just being like, okay, the sprint interval protocol was 6 to 30 seconds and you can do this work to rest. And it's kind of like you can guess and you will make improvements, of course, but we can dial it even further by doing little things like this that can help essentially improve overall conditioning, being able to have better drive and on kinetics for the heart rate here, and then better recovery kinetics during the recovery phases. Now, ideally, we can match this up with power data if you have it, and then with NIRS data to be able to look at muscle oxygenation during these. But most people only have access to a heart rate monitor. The rest of it is quite expensive. So this is just an example of what we're kind of looking at when we're looking at sprint interval conditioning. We will be doing a podcast with Andrew, probably next week or the week after. So keep tuned on that because we're going to go through basically a masterclass on essentially this kind of data, I guess in preparation, because we teach all of this within the conditioning mentorship as part of our performance education, which is kind of tied to the Sweet Science of Fighting. So we have a conditioning mentorship that runs through all of this with all the physiology and everything you need to know to do this. If you just jump on the email list, if you're not already on it, when we do open another cohort, which might not be till next year, but we're potentially looking to do another one this year, then you'll be notified essentially when those doors open. But if you want to know more about this kind of conditioning and kind of what's going on, I guess, physiologically behind the scenes, just check out this video next, and kind of breaks down a lot of the high intensity intervals and zone 2 and things like that. So you have a little bit of understanding of what's going on.